It's another Thursday. Welcome to All Things Rex Worldwide. I'm Rex Sikes. I'm your host, and I've got a delight, a treat, a special guest today that I'm so thrilled and happy to have on the show. He's done and accomplished so many different things. I know you're going to like it too, and he's got some answers for you that I know are going to be meaningful. He's a former police detective, hostage negotiator, and international peacekeeper. J. Paul Nadeau spent more than 30 years working with victims and perpetrators of crime and learning from top experts in abuse situations, murder investigations, hostage takings, terrorist attacks, and he's learned about human behavior in general. So over the course of his career, Paul talked hostage takers into giving themselves up and murderers into admitting their crimes. And because of his extensive training and his unique approach to connecting with people of all walks of life and under every circumstance, Paul understands the importance of connecting to others without judgment, prejudice, or fear so that we can contribute to each other and help the world become a better and safer place. Now, he reflects this compassion in each of his books, and he's written some really wonderful books, his seminars, his coaching, his keynote speeches worldwide. And he's a master negotiator, storyteller, and speaker. I'm so happy today. He is my guest on All Things Rex. Hello, Paul. And I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here. There we go. Paul, there we are. Let's make sure that you're unmuted. There you go.
Hey, Rex, really nice to be here. And for all your audience, hello, everyone.
I am so glad that we're here. And I encourage the audience right up front that to go ahead and ask questions of Paul, and we'll put them up on the screen as we get them. Leave comments wherever you're watching or viewing from, both live and in replay. And do share the show. Share it. You can share it while it's live, and you can share it in replay to other people so that they too can benefit. You know, we say sharing is caring and caring is sharing. So go ahead and share the show out. And Paul, how are you today?
You know what? I am doing fantastic. I'm above ground. I'm alive, and everything is good.
You know, that is such an important statement. And sometimes people, I think, lose sight of that. I always tell people, if I'm above ground, that's a good day, right? And we concur. But that I get to have problems to solve. And sometimes those are personal problems or business problems or other people's problems. But, you know, life is what it is. And no matter what it is, it's still a good day because we're above ground.
You're absolutely right. I like to take the word problem and replace it with challenge. If we look at it negatively, a problem is a problem. But if we look at it, hey, this is a challenge. This is an opportunity for me to create something or to solve something. I'm a detective. I don't have problems. I have challenges. And so when we just replace the narrative of that, it's not a problem, it's a challenge. And I am up for challenges. I just love that attitude.
I do too. I want to appreciate you for saying that, because a lot of times, you know, it's what we think that determines how far we can go. As Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're correct.
Yes.
And if you view something as a problem, it's a problem. If you view it as an opportunity or a challenge, then it becomes that as well. So absolutely. Thank you.
I love that.
And me too. I want to get into your police work too. And because, I mean, I think that's an important part of all of this stuff that you've done is important in terms of what you do today with people. But let's just start off just a little bit with your background, because your life's been influenced by, you know, some events in your past. And I know you've had severe physical and emotional abuse by an alcoholic father, and you suffered from low esteem and anxiety, depression at an early age. So life for you growing up wasn't that joyous, I assume.
No, it wasn't, Rex. And you know, my story is not unique. A lot of people have been abused and are being abused, regrettably. My father, like, we're going back years and years. My father himself was severely abused by his own father, and you know, they lived in northern Quebec, and I remember stories of my grandfather chasing the family with a loaded .22 rifle. And my grandmother, God bless her, had to take the children, run through the fields in the winter, through the snow, to a barn where she had set up some warm clothing and some supplies to last them a day or two until my grandfather came back to soberism, if you can call it that. But my father, again, didn't know how to cope with his past. And it wasn't easy for anyone during that time who suffered from post-traumatic stress or suffered from abuse to go and get help. Now it's different. So my father kind of took a lot of his troubles, and we use the word problems because he looked at them as problems. He took it out on his family. And regrettably, that was my mother, my brother, and I. We were victims of physical abuse and emotional abuse. And I remember at a very young age being depressed and not believing in myself because I was a child of the 60s. I was going to school, grade school in the 60s. And I remember my teachers back then even saying, "You'll never amount to anything." And it's funny no, let me rephrase that. It's not funny. It's actually concerning when somebody lies to you or tells you you're never going to amount to something, or they continue to tell you how worthless you are. A lot of us tend to start believing the lies of others. And that's how it was for me. I believed that I would never amount to anything. And my depression really overtook me, and I could see no light at the end of the tunnel. But as fate would have it, everything changed in grade 7. And I am so grateful for the changes that were made and for the event that happened in my grade 7 year that changed everything for me. So yeah, my past, it didn't define my future. It actually gave me purpose. And I'll tell you why. I remember after a beating, suffering a beating at the hands of my father, and I was lying on the ground, bruised and battered, looking up at him and just thinking again to myself, just yet another beating. But this time I looked up at my father and I thought to myself, when I grow older, I'm going to become a policeman so I can arrest you and people like you.
Wow.
Yeah. And that really made it sunk in with me, Rex, and it happened. So I never got to arrest him because he killed himself when I was 17 with the same rifle that he killed Santa Claus with when I was 7. But I did become the policeman, and I followed through on the promise that I'd made myself.
Wow. Wow. Well, then let's backtrack a little bit because you said you said killed Santa Claus when you were 7.
Yeah.
Like there was a 7th grade event.
Yes.
This is the moment. I want to make sure that I'm following, because what happened to you where you made is that the event, the 7th grade event where you made the decision to become a police officer, or is...
No, I'll go back a little bit. The number 7 plays a big part in my life. At the age of 7, that's when I made the promise to myself that when I grew up, I would arrest my father and people like him. In the 7th grade, I was really a troublemaker. You see, I could not express myself at home. I was an abused kid, and I wasn't being seen. I wasn't being heard. And in the situation, in cases where children are abused at home and they have no voice, they often act out in school just to get some kind of attention. Not the best attention, but some kind of attention. And that was me. I acted out in school and I got disciplined accordingly. But in my 7th grade, there was a teacher, and I started to like girls, and I couldn't study. I failed at just about every test, 48, 49%. I couldn't get through studying. My poor mother would cry herself in our room, and she would just say, "Please, just try to study," and I just couldn't do it. In grade 7, this one teacher, he announced to the entire classroom, he said, "We're having a test next week, and I expect everyone here to pass, except for you, Nadeau. I already know you're going to fail." Now, Rex, that was a slap that I had never felt before. I'd never felt so humiliated or embarrassed. Maybe it was my age. Maybe it was because I was looking for attention from girls, and I just wasn't getting it because I was the bad boy of the class. But it struck me as hard as any one of the strikes that my father had ever given me. And I remember going back to my home and in my room and locking myself and just crying and trying to study the material for the test the next week. And I spent the whole weekend doing that. The next week, I wrote that test. And I'm certain that you and all of your listeners are familiar with the two voices that we have competing in our head. One says, hey, you can do this. The other one says you can't. One says, don't even try. You'll never make it. The other one says, give it a shot. Give it your best shot. And I had these voices competing in my head saying, you know this stuff. And the other voice would say, no, you're going to fail. And you're going to fail miserably. Well, I wrote the test and I felt quite good about it. And a couple of days later, as was customary in this teacher's classroom, he would grade the papers and then he would call the student with the lowest grade to the front of the class to collect his or her paper. That was always me. I was conditioned to jump out of my chair, first name being called. It was Nadeau, 48%, and I would be walking up to pick up my paper. On this particular day, Rex, he didn't call my name first, second, or third. He didn't call it sixth or 10th. And as he got to the middle of the class, pretty much half of the students had collected their papers. A lot of the students were turning around going, why? They were asking me, why aren't you up there? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. And that voice, Rex, the one voice was saying, I know why. It's because he's going to embarrass you so badly. He's going to just tear you apart. And the other one's saying, you know what, Paul? No, you did good. You did good. So he goes on, and there were 3 students that were left. There was my cousin Lise and another girl by the name of Giselle, and the 2 of them competed for the highest grades in the class, and there was me. And I felt really out of place, and my cousin Lise was the one to be called next. I was called after. I had the second highest grade in the class. And for me, that was a defining moment, Rex. That was my pivot moment where I didn't take the walk of shame. I took a proud walk, and in my heart and my soul just lit up. And I thought, you can do this. You can do this. That sunk into me. It just ingrained in me the belief in myself. And from that point on, that pivot moment changed everything for me. I started working hard. I applied myself. I started believing in myself. My depression just vanished. And I became the person I wanted to become. And I did so much as a result of believing in myself and not letting my past define who I was.
Wow, that is a powerful story, but a powerful experience, life-transforming experience is beautiful. Let's unpack that a little bit because it's so incredible. You talk about self-talk and voices, and certainly it's crucial for us to be able to get to manage our self-talk and the way we think. And 2, you had a history of not doing well, but now you had a history of surpassing like your own expectations, but somehow maybe knowing somewhere inside that you were doing okay. I mean, that's pretty cool. But the other thing that's really interesting because you said my background, my story isn't that dissimilar from a lot of other people. I mean, names and faces and places change, but some of the circumstances, we're human. We all have backgrounds. Here's what and I'm sure you thought of this, but here's what I would like our viewers to think about. That is, had it not been for that teacher going, you're going to fail, and you going home and crying and studying and worried about it, you might have just gone ahead and failed the way you had been doing.
Yeah.
Had it not been for that challenge, even though it wasn't a pleasant one.
You are absolutely right, Rex. When I think about that defining moment, you're right. At first, I was so angry at that teacher for years afterwards. How dare he do that? Until I realized, wait a minute, dude. It may have been tough love on his part. I don't know what motivated him to do that, or if he just disliked me. Because I do remember being picked up by that teacher and tossed across the floor into a bunch. Oh yeah. He grabbed me like he would a bowling ball, and it was funny. Not funny at the time, but there were a bunch of galoshes and just shoes at the end of the floor right by the wall. And he just tossed me, and they must have just waxed the floor because I slid like a bowling ball down there into all that was him. But he, I believe, thought, I don't know what else to do with this guy. And if I challenge him, could go one of two ways. But you're right. Had it not been for that challenge, I don't know where I would be today, whether that pivot moment would have come, whether I would have had the foresight, the insight, or just, been gifted with a challenge to my own self.
Well, what I think is truly impressive is many things, but is that whether he did it for good purposes or not good purposes, what happened for you was you got really, really angry. Angry enough, not at him necessarily, I mean, to punch him or do something like, but to get angry enough to make a change in yourself to live your life the way you want it. And people sometimes have to get to that, never again, I won't let anyone do this to me, or I won't let myself do it, or circumstances. They just have to make that decision. And you made this powerful decision.
You're so right on that, Rex. And we must challenge ourselves. Is this the life that I want to live? Uh, Am I currently in a place where I am satisfied, where I feel that everything is going my way, or that most things are going my way? And am I happy to stay here? And this comes down to self-examination. Socrates once said, an unexamined life is a life not worth living. And I do believe that we owe it to ourselves and to the world around us to examine our personal lives, to see if what is happening in our lives is what we want. And if it's not, then we have to challenge ourselves to become the people, to make the changes that we need to become the people that we want to become, to be happy. Happiness doesn't come from outside. You know that, Rex. It doesn't come from external circumstances or from what people say. It comes from how we interpret it, what we choose to do and how we choose to feel. So we have to challenge ourselves to look at our lives and say, this ain't where I want to be. I want to be somewhere else, and then do it. It's not enough to believe and want. You have to take the action to make it happen. And all of us have that ability within us. We were born limitless. We were born with so much potential. What happens to people? They just drop it at some point. They let it go. They become so climatized to being in a negative place. It's learned helplessness sometimes. If you live in a very bad situation, as I did as a child, that's all I knew was this abuse, this abuse, this abuse. It was a constant shock. And I knew nothing more than that. That was my living. That was my reality. It wasn't until I realized, no, there's much more to this, and I can change it by changing my mindset. That made all the difference in the world. You're right. It comes down to choice. And I love that word, 6-letter word, choice. We get to choose the people we want to become and the destinies we want to reach. We get to choose all that.
That is beautiful. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, your life changed. You became a policeman, and obviously you went further than that. But people sometimes don't realize that they always have a choice.
Yes.
They just don't know that they have a choice. And I tell people, it's like having $100 bill in your pocket and not knowing it's there. You can't spend it. It's there. You got that ability inside yourself, or you have that choice. But if you don't know it, it's as if you don't have it. And so how do you help people realize or recognize that they do always have a choice, that they can make a difference, as you learned that you could make a difference?
That is a great question, Rex. And I'll start by saying this. I share my story. And I remember when I worked in the special victims unit, working with victims of sexual assault and child abuse, is that I knew that if I approached a victim of sexual assault or child abuse, in many instances, they don't want to see anybody. Something traumatic, a great event, a traumatic event has happened to them. And especially if it's happened to a woman or a girl, and then the first person she sees, or one of the first persons she sees, is a male policeman who's asking, for the details. And I could only imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes. And so I, from time to time, would share some of my background, some of what had happened to me, to sort of build a little bit of a bridge to let people know that they're not always alone, and that I can certainly empathize, and I'm willing to listen to their story. Vulnerability is such a strong, uh, it is a strong means of getting through to people and sharing our stories. So one of the things that I would encourage is just for them to tell me at their own pace, and I would ask for their stories. And I think that we have to do that from our experiences. Just say a little bit about what we've gone through. And that encourages a lot of people. And I remember it encouraging a couple of young boys who had been caged for years of their lives. And they were told never to talk about their experience with anybody because it was against God's law. And we needed information to be able to arrest and prosecute the people who had done this to them. And it took a little while, but I had to share some of my experiences. And one of the boys started opening up to me. So just being available, listening, and encouraging makes a big, big difference.
Wow. You again, I mean, I'm going to say right now, we got to do more shows together. Because I could just tell that in the amount of time that we have, we're never going to be able to get through all of the things I want to ask you, because it's so valuable and so important for myself as well as all the viewers and listeners, of the show. And with that said, I want to remind people that they can ask questions and leave comments and share the show as well. But there are a couple of components that stand out to me in that, when I was reading your intro, the bio, it talks about compassion and no prejudice, and accepting and people, and then you demonstrate that. You say, I share some of my background, I build a bridge, I create some kind of rapport or trust by saying, hey, I'm a human like you are, and I've had problems as well. And then you said, I let them do it at their own pace. So you're not forcing them to do it, but you're allowing them when they feel comfortable to do it. And so often, people want to get to results that they push their kids, they push their parents, they push each other, they push themselves, instead of understanding that there is a trust and understanding because you're a negotiator. I mean, you have to negotiate with hostage. So there's building this trust component, and then allowing things to kind of unfold. You may be steering them because you're a professional, but at the same time, it's allowing that process because the other person feels heard, they feel respected, they feel safe. This is why I have someone like Paul on the show, because Paul is an expert in this area. This is fantastic, and you could, I'm sure, talk so much more about this. But I always hate the statement, would you agree? Because I'm not trying to force an agreement, but
Of course.
But I would like to know what kind of it's a short segue here because I want to come back to stuff. But what kind of bridge building techniques or approaches or methods or principles would you encourage other people to put into practice so that they could communicate better with their spouses, their significant others, their kids?
I'm going to start out by saying that two of the greatest lessons that I learned when I first became a policeman that have served me throughout my police career and to this very day are these. Number one, we are more similar than we are different. And when you think about that, we are more similar than we are different. Does not matter what color your skin is, what religious beliefs you have, or what your sexual preferences are. We are all these human beings, these vessels, these energy pods, and we are more similar than we are different. And how does that apply to the world? Well, it allowed me to put myself in the shoes of the people that I was dealing with, be it a victim, be it a witness, be it anybody. I imagined, what would it be like if I were on the receiving end of being pulled over for a traffic stop, for example, or spoken to because I was the victim of severe assault? What would it be? What would I like that person to say or to do? And the second one is that you get what you give. And if I give you dignity and respect, I'm likely to get dignity and respect in return. So when I approached people, even the most hardened of criminals, and I saw them for who they were, not for the criminals or the things that they had done. I removed their behavior, what they were accused of, from the person and got to know the person. How do we bridge something? If we're angry with someone, we don't keep what created the anger at the forefront. We have to relieve that. We have to take that and put it aside at the very beginning. And then we have to encourage people to talk. Something didn't go right. Let's talk about this. You first. It's like any negotiation. If I'm a good negotiator, which I am, I don't start out by saying what I want. Hey, what I'd like out of this thing is I'd like this and I'd like that and I'd like this and I'd like that. How about you? What do you want? Well, you're not going to get anywhere. If you're a salesperson and you say, I know what you want this and you want that, and I want the sale and I want that, you're not going to get anywhere. We really have to start out by making it all about the other person. This is how we bridge things. This is how I approached victims of crime, by making it about them. Is like, it's okay. I understand that you've been through something very, very difficult. I'm here to help. Those words, I'm here to help, are so powerful, Rex. This is what I said during my hostage negotiations with hostage takers. Hi, my name is Paul. I'm the negotiator. I'm here to help. Tell me what's going on. And we really make it about the other person, because we have to understand what their mindset is, where they're coming from. We can't negotiate from our world. We have to negotiate from theirs. This is how we build bridges. Tell me what you went through. Tell me what you're going through. Tell me how you're feeling. What can I do to help you? All these things are so important. And this is what builds relationships, because we really have to make it about them. Seek first to understand and then to be understood, is what Stephen Covey once said. And those words are so powerful. I want to understand you first. I want you to talk first. Tell me how you're feeling. Tell me what I can do, whatever it is. But that is how we bridge together.
Well, that is so beautiful. And what you just said, wow, if people would just understand that they can apply that today, they can start saying, I want to help, and put into practice. And it does take practice. I mean, especially if you have habits of not doing it, but it does take practice, but they can begin to understand what you just said. I encourage them to go back and rewatch this multiple times to understand how important and how powerful this can be when you first seek to understand instead of seeking to be understood first. And you are there to help. We're going to have to take the break, and then we're going to come back. But I sure am loving this. And again, feel free to leave comments. You can do it in the chat, where if there's a chat room or wherever you are in social media. And again, share the show. And if you're liking what you're seeing and you're hearing, always feel free to like and say, "Hey, I like this," or "Wow," or something, because this is really beautiful. Paul, we're going to take that short break, and then we'll come right back.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we're back with Mr. Paul Nadeau, and sir, wow, that was just golden, and I truly appreciate it. And I feel very blessed to have you as a guest, and I feel very blessed that the Los Angeles Tribune allows us this platform, because the goal of the publisher, Mo Rock, has been to be not just a news source, but a source of inspiration worldwide. And I get to have people like you on my show, and to put it out there worldwide, so that people can. I mean, and many people already know, they do your workshops, they read your books, they've been to your keynotes worldwide, global. They're, your coaching clients and things. But I get to, in this way, introduce you to my audience, and many of those probably know you too already. So I want to take what you said, both in your past, in your life, and in your ability to help people who may be, victims of horrific incidents or abuse, and ask you a professional question, I guess, because you are a powerful man and a gentle man at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would guess that a lot of your power comes from your ability to be gentle and to be who you are. You talk about, a woman or someone whose first encounter is then with the male cop or something like that. But as a professional in the world that you lived in, you also saw some of the worst of the worst. Circumstances and victims and stuff that, many of us don't get to see. Sometimes we do, and you mentioned, separating, and I love this, because you separate the behavior from the person. It's like, what is the person trying to accomplish? And their behaviors suck. They're robbing, they're killing, they're doing things that, we don't agree with. But how do we preserve the worth or the value of the person and keep that separate, so that we can deal with them at a level at which we could create an understanding, even if it's to get them to confess or to give up their hostages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but so many people have trauma in their life, and they don't know how to separate themselves from that trauma. And so they live with it for decades, or they carried around the abuses that they suffered when they were children, as you did, instead of understanding that there is a different choice that they can make, or a different way that they can live to be free. We're not going to have time to go into everything, obviously, but if you can speak to how were you able to go through professionally the things that you had to go through as a peacekeeper, a police officer, a hostage negotiator, dealing with, all of this.
One of the things that we have to kind of remind ourselves of is that the work has to come from us. It has to come from examining our lives and asking ourselves if we're happy with it. And there are so many great resources out there. We can go to YouTube and listen to some inspirational videos. We can turn on a podcast. We can go to a show that the Los Angeles Tribune plays, and we can listen to these things. But we have to do the work. It's not going to be done for us. I encourage people to take a look at your life and to really set forward a goal and a mission that if you're not happy with it, you've got to do the work and make the changes. And one of the things that we have to remind ourselves is that the past is the past, and the past does not have to equal the future. What we do now in this moment is the most important thing that we'll ever do right now, because we can't go back to the past. And if we do, we can't change anything. So we have to deal with it. We have to oftentimes leave the past behind. I tell people, don't go to the poor me hotel, because when you look at your life and you're thinking, oh my gosh, poor me, this happened to me. And so you pack your bags and you take a capsule, a time capsule, and you go back into that past. For example, if I were to go back to the times that I was abused, the time my father killed Santa Claus, all that kind of thing. And if I were to sit there and unpack it, I'm at the Poor Me Hotel, I've got my bags, I'm going to unpack them. And there's the Why Me Lounge. And they've got half price drinks. So I'm going to go into the Why Me Lounge after I've unpacked at the Poor Me Hotel. And I'm going to spend some time just dwelling in my past sorrows. That does nothing to make my life at the moment happier. It keeps me in a state of sadness. It keeps me in a state of victimhood, because I'm choosing to go there. I don't. I say to myself, and I encourage people, you can pack up your bags, leave the Poor Me Hotel, don't drop by the Why Me Lounge, come into the present, where in this moment is the most important moment of your life. You get to choose your happiness. You get to choose what you say. I'm here with Rex. I'm here on the Los Angeles Tribune's show. Mo Rock put this all together. I'm just so happy to be here. This is the moment in which I get to create my happiness, and I get to choose who I'm speaking with and what I'm doing. Wow. There's no other better moment than this moment right now. I can plan for the future. Sure, that's great. But as COVID-19 told us, we can do all the planning in the world we want, but that ain't guaranteed. What we have control over is this moment. So let's not focus on the things we don't have control over. Let's focus on the things that we do. And if you go back to your past and you dwell in your past at the Poor Me Hotel, the Why Me Lounge, you're not in control. It is your past that is controlling you. For me, that serves me not. It doesn't serve me to stay there. I need to be happy, and I need to create my moments, because life is not guaranteed. In 5 minutes from now, I may not be here. In a week from now, I may not be here. I'm thinking of some people that I've lost in just the recent past. One of my nieces was 31 years of age, and she passed away from brain cancer just a couple of weeks back. Our lives, folks, there's no guarantee. So what you make of it now is so very important. And this is why you get to choose. And we can choose to let our pasts go and not to dwell on our past. We learn from them, but our pasts do not have to define our futures. We are not our pasts. We are who we are now from the choices that we make and the actions that we take.
Wow. Wow, that is really well said. And let me first express condolences for the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
And I know that our audience members could, if they would do the same.
Thank you.
That is truly well put. I mean, what you said, and people seem to be their own worst terrorist, and they terrorize themselves by holding themselves hostage from their past. But I think what people think is, sometimes they think, I'm being terrorized by the past or circumstances, or I'm being held hostage by the past or circumstances, and not realizing that they're doing it. And the beauty of what you share and do is you help people to understand their fears and challenges and step forward to live a happier and a more fulfilled life. And you wrote a best-selling book called Take Control of Your Life to help people do that. And I want to talk about that too. And you have an Inspire Us podcast.
Yes.
And then you've written a few other books that we'll come to before. But I mean, you really are there helping, and here now helping people to take control of your life. And one of the beautiful things that you said is about focusing here and now, as opposed to there and then, and being here where you can do something about now, which you can't do about then, or these other places. So to take control of your life, I pass it to you, sir.
You got it. And I just want to acknowledge Robert, who has been in the chat. And Robert, thank you so much for your comments. Really appreciate your sentiments as well. And to everyone else who's been offering something in the comments, I appreciate you. Taking control of your life is not going to be left up to anyone but you. People can share wisdom, they can share encouragement, they can give you guidance. And if you feel that you're overwhelmed and you can't do it alone, there are therapists out there. There are great people who can help you to manage your thoughts and move you forward. But nobody's going to rescue you from the rock of solitude but you. They're going to send you these life jackets and these aids, but the work has to come from you, and you have to take that control because, again, nobody is going to take it for you. A good therapist, a good friend, a good word of encouragement is setting the stage for you to take the step. And the journey of 1,000 miles, Lao Tzu said this, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. If you feel that you're not getting anywhere, you've got to take that action to make sure that you do. You have to take one step at a time. Get out of bed. Yeah, that's hard for some people. Some people just can't get out of bed. They want to stay there, and they want their lives to just end, or just don't bother me. But we really need to take that first step and just keep moving forward. And as Rex said a little bit earlier, it doesn't come easily. For some people, it's not familiar. And once we become familiar with the ways in which we can take control of our lives, it does become easier. It becomes second nature the more you believe in yourself. One of the things, and I'll say this, Rex, because you brought this in, is when I walked in to talk to a murderer, for example, I told myself before I walked into the room, you're not going in to talk to a murderer. You're going in to talk to a human being who is accused of having committed a murder. First of all, you want to find out who that human being is. And you want to give a little bit of yourself, a little bit of, hey, I'm Paul and I'm here to help. Remember those words, I'm here to help. It's beautiful. Here to listen to your side of the story. But first, I'd like you to know a little bit about myself, and I'd like to know a little bit about you. And you start that rapport and that connection with that human being. A lot of these people who have committed the most horrific of crimes were victims themselves. They were told that they were useless. They were abused. They were molested. They were raped. All kinds of things. Nobody's ever taken a moment to recognize them as the human souls that they are, to say, I see you. And you don't have to be this way. That I know that there's still some good in you. And I'm here to see that. I'm here to hear your side of the story. And Rex, after I did this with these criminals, who then started to open up to me and started to see that I was interested in them. I remember this, and I'm getting a little bit off track, but I just, so many thoughts are coming into my head. There was this one biker, he was like 350 pounds, and he was suspected of having committed a horrific crime and being part of this criminal organization. And I remember when I walked into him to see him, I introduced myself and I said, I'm here to help. And I said, I'm not here to judge you or find you guilty of anything. I'm only here to determine the truth. And I'm here to treat you with dignity and respect. And I would expect the same thing from you. The moment that I said, I'm here to treat you with dignity and respect, his head was down. He raised his head. He looked at me, and big tears welled up in his eyes. And he said, you are the first person to ever tell me that you were going to treat me with dignity and respect. He broke down crying. And he ended up telling me exactly what I wanted to know. And this is the power of just treating each other the way that we want to be treated ourselves. Or to go one step above that, there's the golden rule that says treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Then there's the platinum rule that says treat others the way that they would like to be treated. So ask a person, how would you like to be treated? How would you like to be spoken to? There's power in connection. There's power in just listening and reminding people that it doesn't have to be this way. Your past does not have to equal your future. And your life can change the moment you choose it to change. That's
very, very powerful, very powerful. And again, that's why I said we have to do more shows. But again, going back to separating the behavior from the person or the intention of the person, what are they trying to fulfill? And they're doing it in a wrong way. It's not to make them accountable, because we're all accountable for what we do, and we should be responsible for the choices we make and the actions we take. Yeah. But to see them as a human, to say, I'm here to give you dignity and respect, and to get to the truth is wonderful. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, it is. So few of us, so many of us, I think, have so many problems because we don't see the individual for who they are, We see them for what they're doing, and we're equating that what they're doing with who they are. And so it's like saying, sometimes you act like an idiot, and the person says, "You just called me an idiot." You go, "No, I'm not saying you're an idiot. I'm saying that the action of being an idiot." But it's, you know what I'm saying? I mean, people have the difficulty of the person who said it may imply you're being an idiot, but the other person who takes it is like, "Well, but you're calling me an idiot," as opposed to saying the actions of an idiot are what I'm describing.
Yeah.
There's the behavior.
And
Go ahead.
no, you're absolutely right. I just want to acknowledge Ava too, who has been chatting in the background too. Bang on, treat a person the way that they want to be treated.
Yes.
But yeah, we get to choose our words, right, Rex? And if I use the word idiot in a sentence, in any reference whatsoever, the person is going to get their back up because they don't hear anything else. They only hear that one word idiot, and they associate it that you're telling me I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to, I remember when I had this great sergeant, staff sergeant, when I was working in the learning center. And when I messed up or when I wasn't 100% where I should be, he called me into his office and he'd always start off with a compliment. Paul, I really like the way that you do this. And I really like how you take command of this situation, how you teach the students. And so I've noticed as well that in this area here, there could be some improvement. I could see you trying this. What do you think about that? That made all the difference. Just the choice of his words. He was giving me a little bit of a kick in the butt, but it didn't hurt. It was kind of like, yeah, I see your point. And so our choice of words are so powerful, so much so that let me go back to the interrogation room when I walked in to talk to a murderer and we started to connect. We started to have this trust. And then they would say, yes, I did the crime or I did the murder or whatever. When they left, when they knew that what they were saying would be used against them in a court of law and that they could go to jail for 30 years. They knew that, but yet they gave it to me because I had seen them and I had made them feel comfortable about talking and about being seen and about being understood. And then they would shake my hand. They would shake my hand, Rex. They would say, "Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul." Now, a year later, when trial came along and I went to court, guess what? The defense lawyer would tell their client, the guy who confessed to me, "Don't you talk to Nadeau. You don't say anything to Nadeau. You don't even look at him in court." What would they do? They would look for me in court and they would wave, "Hey, Paul." Call me by my first name. "Hi, Paul. How you doing?" "Hey, John. How's it going?" "Oh, it hasn't been easy, Paul." And it was this kind of stuff that went on. That connection, that human connection, just seeing somebody and making that connection, that rapport is so powerful. And we get to do it. Could you imagine if we sat at a world table in which we talked about our differences without judgment, without saying, "Oh no, you're wrong because we do it this way. And my religion says this." If we did not judge others, if we were more interested in finding out, how did you come about thinking about this without judgment? I want to understand where you're coming from. My goodness. Could you imagine how many wars we could end and how close we could get, how many walls we could break down? It's not about the color of our skin. It's not about our religious beliefs. It's really about recognizing that we are more similar than we are different. We're all human beings. We were born in different places. We were perhaps given a different set of rules, a different religion, a different way of looking at things. But who am I to say that I'm right and that you're wrong? I'm not. And unless I hear you, and unless I use my critical thinking to say, I don't have to listen to everybody else. They say that this type of person can't be trusted. Wait a minute. I don't follow the flock. I ask questions. I use critical thinking to say, tell me more. Tell me more. I'm interested in this. How do you see this? I get it. That kind of thing. And if I don't agree, it's okay. I'm not angry with you. I say, you know what, Rex? I see where you're coming from. I may not believe what you do or necessarily agree with you here, but I respect the fact that you think that way. Thank you for sharing that with me. Now, where do we go? What is it that we can agree upon? And where do we go from here? That's the negotiation. And that we negotiate every day of our lives, don't we, Rex?
Yeah.
Whenever we're looking for a yes or looking for a connection of some type, we're negotiating, buddy. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is so powerful. And I want to be sure that people know how to get in touch with you too. We have, we'll have it's been there during the show, but we'll put it up again, your website, so that they can contact you. And also your book, Take Control of Your Life, is one of them. And then the other one is Damn It, Ask.
Damn It, Just Ask.
Damn It, Just Ask. And then you have a workbook.
I do have a workbook. Well, here's the thing. I've got 2 journals. I've got a 30-day journal and a 90-day journal, because I believe that journaling is powerful. Writing your thoughts down and your challenges and your wishes and what you're going to do for the day. I think that's really important. So I've got a Take Control of Your Life journal, a 30-day journal, and a 90-day journal. I've written a book called The Badass Guide to Conflict Resolution, because I see conflict not as something to avoid, but as an opportunity to create better relationships. When we take a look at conflict we have with another person, I don't want to talk to that person. Whoa, wait a minute. Why don't I hear that other person out? How I'm here to help. I'm here to listen to you. How did I offend you? Can we work this out? You start talking first. It's an opportunity to build bridges and to tear down walls. And those are the books that I've written. I'm working on one right now, which I think is going to top my first couple. And I'm excited about that. So, yeah, thank you for mentioning those.
Oh, no, beautiful. I think people need to go get your books right away, and they can get them anywhere books are sold, or on Amazon, or whatever.
Yes. Yep.
That's beautiful. Well, you've talked about, so many different things, about building a bridge and understanding other people from where they're coming from, and doing unto others the way you want to be done unto, but also doing to others the way they prefer to be done to, or to have done to them. And the power of words, and people don't, we hear these things like, don't think of a blue elephant, and saying that the brain works and all you think of is an elephant. But it also happens if you say, I don't have any money, or I'm broke, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or you're fat, or you're ugly. What you said about idiot, that the people hear one word, they forget all the other stuff. So if I said, I don't think you're an idiot, they still hear you're an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of the prominence, the density that word seems to have, the trigger word kind of thing. So you've shared about, building bridges, being there to help, being listening, creating trust and understanding, and the power of your own language. And we've only, think about it. We haven't even scratched the surface of all the different kinds of things that you do, and the kind of experiences you've had. But in the short time that we've had together, you really created some positive, powerful, memorable moments for us to begin to apply these practices and principles. I share with you this notion that I think of people as a garden. We're all just different flowers in the garden, and the flowers don't go, you're a good flower, and you're a bad flower, and you're yellow, and you're red, and you're green, and you're purple. They're just flowers. We're just one species on the planet, and we definitely need to figure out how to get along, because we get further faster if we walk together than if we're, battling each other the entire way. And you are one of those people who's been putting that into practice for all these decades, and helping people to do that, and helping people to be held accountable for when they've broken the law or violated, situations. So it's the cool part about that is that again, it goes back to separating behavior from the person, and not that many people. I'm so glad that we did this, because I think it's a powerful concept to be able to understand that your child, or your significant other, or your parent, or your coworkers, or your boss, or that stranger there on the store, it's not about the person. They're still a person of worth and value. Let me share a defining moment for me. I was called out in a schoolyard fight over a girl when I was about 13, and we were now squared off, and I had my friends behind me, and the other guy had his friends behind me, and he was calling me names, and I was calling him names, and we're all like this. And all of a sudden I heard him, calling me an asshole. And I had this moment of time distortion where everything just slowed down. I thought, you know what? I am an asshole a lot of times. He's right. I mean, there are those times. And I looked at him with his friends and I thought, he's got friends who like him and they all want to see me get beat up. And I have my friends who want to see him get beat up. And I was like, it was this moment of, I don't really know who's right here. I just knew that in that moment, I didn't want to fight him. And it wasn't that I was afraid of him, but it was like, I don't have a conflict with you. You have people who like you and I'm sitting here calling you names and your people calling me. And I said, I don't want to fight you. And we ended up walking away, but it was just this kind of epiphany for me to go, he's not really being a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's just angry at this moment. And I'm attaching his anger to him as opposed to, all the people who look at him differently. So maybe I need to look at him differently. So I
like what you just said. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I really was going to say, I like what you shared today because it made me think of this experience.
Well, thank you. And yes, it's true. We're not always going to be on our best behavior, but this is why we have to recognize too, one of the very, very important things that I like to share with people is that we often go back to times where we've let somebody down or hurt somebody's feelings, or maybe we acted like these assholes or whatever you want to call them. And we have to take a look at that. But if we go back and we blame and shame ourselves for what we did in the past without recognizing that we're no longer those people, what I did 6 months ago that may have hurt somebody, I'm not that person anymore. I've grown since then. And my challenge and my goal and my journey is to be a better person than I was yesterday. So when I look back and blame and shame myself and say, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and I'm such a terrible person for having hurt this person 10 years ago, and woe is me, is that no, wait a minute. Have you changed? Are you a different person today? Because you are when you look at it. If you have hurt somebody and you truly, know that you acted inappropriately and that your words hurt or your actions hurt somebody else, you go and you ask forgiveness of them. And then you look at yourself and you forgive yourself because you're not that person anymore. We are not the people we were 6 days ago, 6 years ago, 16 years ago. Why go back and blame and shame ourselves for things that have happened in the past? Remember what I said? The past is in the past. We don't go back to the Poor Me Hotel, the Why Me Lounge, or back to slap ourselves and feel this shame and this blame for things that we've done. We are better people today than we were yesterday. And if we're not, we've got work to do. We've got to strive. We can't compare ourselves to anyone but ourselves. Am I a better person than Paul was yesterday? What am I doing to improve Paul and to make Paul this better person? And if I'm doing that, I've shed the old Paul. The old Paul is gone. Why should I go back and slap myself in the face for things that have happened way back then? It hasn't served me. I'm not that person anymore. Somebody might say, well, I remember when you did this to me. Oh, yeah. I'm really sorry that happened. And boy, that idiot, he was just not a nice guy. And I'm sorry. Well, you're talking about him as though he's in third person. He is. I'm not that person anymore. I don't like that person, actually, what he did. I like the person, but not the action. I would not do that. And this is the attitude that we bring into the life by recognizing that we are new human beings, new creations. We're works in progress. We can't blame and shame and knock ourselves silly. Shit happens. We've hurt people in the past, and let's slap ourselves and say, that will not happen again. I will not be that person. I will think. Viktor Frankl, a wonderful neurologist who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote about his experiences in a concentration camp in which he could have been taken to the gas chambers at any time. And he said that between stimulus and response, there is a moment. And in that moment, we get to choose our response. And in the choices that we make, we get to be the people that we want to become, something along that line. But it's so true. We can't be first reactors. We can't react to life. Oh, this happened. Oh, I'm so tortured by what happened. No, we have to be responders. We can't take things so personally. If somebody comes up to me and says, you're an idiot, you're an asshole, whatever it is that they choose to say, pardon the expression, I hope I'm not offending anybody by using that language, but if that's what they say, look at myself. Am I that person? Like Rex said, yeah, you know what? I acted like an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm going to make the changes. But also, I can't react to life. I have to respond to life. I have to be a first responder and not a first reactor. A first reactor takes everything personally. They take name calling. Oh, you hurt my feelings. Oh, my goodness. No, nobody hurts your feelings. You hurt your own feelings by the interpretation and the meaning that you give it. Nobody does that for you. Eleanor Roosevelt said that nobody can hurt your feelings unless you give them permission to, which means that I can't take things personally. I can certainly listen to it and evaluate, is what he or she is saying the truth? Am I acting like an idiot? Oh, yeah, I am. I got to make some changes here. Or, no, I'm not that way. Their opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. And well, you know what? I'm not going to take it personally. Become a first responder and not a first reactor. An ambulance that happens upon an accident, that they not just happens upon it, they're dispatched to the accident. Can you imagine if all the ambulance attendants jumped out of the ambulance and they looked at the horrific scene in front of them? They went, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do. This is terrible. Oh, I'm going back into the ambulance and I'm getting out of here." No, this is not what we expect of them. We expect them to jump out at this horrific scene, to take a look at it and say, I know what to do. Let's take it one step at a time. This is what I do. And they go right into the action that's necessary to help everyone and to get themselves back home safely. We have to become first responders to our life and not first reactors. Reactors, this is our primitive brain trying to protect us from all kinds of sorrow and everything. This is why we react. Something happens and we attach a meaning to it without even thinking about what that meaning may be. We just attach something to it. Oh, bad. Oh, terrible. I got to get out of here. I've got to, I'm not going to handle this. No way. And all these things happen, as opposed to, okay, something really bad has just happened here. Okay. All right. Think for a moment, Paul. Okay. I got to respond to this. All right. What's in my best interest? What's in everybody else's best interest? Shoulders back, head up. I've got this. This is what being a responder is. So become a first responder and not a first reactor. I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm glad you came back.
No, it's beautiful and it's powerful, and I certainly appreciate it. And it's amazing because the wisdom of the ages. You mentioned Lao Tzu earlier, and a number of people during the show, but the idea of, like, when you get angry, to hold your breath or count to 10, to do something so that you don't just react right away, but take a moment to pause and to respond, because you never make a good decision when you're mad. That could, so very powerful, very sage advice. By the way, to tell you how impressed I am with all of this is the synchronicity. I emailed the Kindle version of Man's Search for Meaning to 3 people today.
Oh, wow.
And one of them emailed me back, said, I've read it. And I said, well, I read it every so often. And then she said, well, I guess I got to read it again. And I love the book. I love Frankl and his work and the contributions. But I love you and your work and your contributions. And what I want to say is to the people out there, connect with Paul. His website's right there. You've got a number of books out there. Take control of your life. Just ask. And the
Badass Guide to Conflict Resolution. Yeah.
And you have, and your podcast?
My podcast, Inspire Us. Now, I encourage people to listen to Inspire Us. I'm not actively doing my podcast now. I started my podcast at the very beginning of COVID because I knew that people would need to be inspired. They would need encouragement. And so my podcast went on for almost 2 years. And when things got back to normalcy, or relatively normal, I didn't actively continue doing it. But there are some great episodes in which I've spoken to people who have faced some of the worst things that you could possibly imagine and gotten through it. I'm talking about people who were suicidal, people who were born with no limbs, people who have, been. I just can't go into it. You gotta listen to it to experience it yourself. And so, yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, I want to say that it's been such an honor and a pleasure of having you here, and this is the first of a number of discussions I want to have with you. So we'll have to come back after the first of the year, January, first quarter, something, and make arrangements if you're willing. I also want to say that the holidays are coming up. There's something like 13 or 17 holidays at this time of year. There's Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas, and I don't even know what they all are. But one of the things I want to leave you with is while you're here, I want to say this. Next week's show is my last show of the season. We'll be back in January, but the last 2 Thursdays of December, we're going to go on hiatus. We're going to actually take off. But because it's gift-giving season, Paul's got a number of books out there. Be sure to go get a book for yourself or get some gifts for other people and give them the gift that's going to help them change or transform their thinking and their feelings and their speech and their behaviors and their lives by being able to control themselves, control their lives, and to change their lives. I mean, who doesn't need to know how to negotiate better, for example?
Right.
It's the holiday season. Be sure to go and get yourself some of Paul's books, and please do and share. And if you like this show, like I said, please do share it. Paul and I can reach a certain number of people together or alone, but we can never reach all the people that you could reach if you help us share. So if you've gotten value from this, please do share the show for other people so that they too can benefit from Paul's words and wisdom and what he's brought to you today. I appreciate my audience for being here. Again, like, comment, and share the show. And Paul, wow, so good to know you. So good to have you on the show finally. And I'm so very pleased that as we end the year that, we're here at this stage that it's propelling it for the future. It's the time that we have now that we move forward through the holidays. I think that's another really important thing to consider, is that this time some people have difficulty, but they don't have to if they just start listening to what you've said and applying what you've said.
Thank you so much, Rex, for having me on. And I've been reading the chats. Robert, Ava, thank you for your comments as well. And anybody else who is facing challenges, remember that they don't have to be permanent. Nothing is permanent. We get to create our own destinies, and we get to write our own books. Rex is an author. I'm an author. We know that we start with an empty page, and what we write is what we choose to write. And it's the same thing with your life. You get to choose the next chapter. I'm going to say this. Heroes are created because of villains. And there may have been a villain in your life, and there are no heroes without villains. So my father was my villain, but he created a hero. Who's your villain, and what hero do you choose to create for yourself? Your past can be your villain, but it don't have to stay your villain. You can become the hero of your own story. You get to write the next chapter. That's up to you. So write the best chapter for yourself, make yourself into a hero, a heroine, and just go on out there, take on the world, because we are all this power, this energy, this frequency. And if you change your frequency, you will change your life. And I'll just take a minute, because I think this is so powerful to say, is that if you look at yourself as a vessel of energy, a frequency, we give out a certain frequency to the world. So if we don't believe in ourselves, if we are always feeling that we're worthless and that we have nothing, what energy do you think that you're going to give out to the world? You're going to give a low energy, and it's only going to attract people on the same frequency as you. It's not going to attract other things or blessings into your life. It's not. It's going to bring in the same kind of people who think the same way that you do. However, if you change that frequency, you start to believe in yourself, and you go out and you feel that you're a high quality person. I'm here, folks. Here I am, and here I am to the world. That frequency is what you're going to transmit to the world. And guess what? It's going to attract the same in return. Change your frequency, change your world. If your frequency is low, get it up there, and you're going to see your whole world change. So thank you, Rex, for having me on the show. Thank you, Mo Rock, for this show. Thank you to the Los Angeles Tribune. Thank you to all, and to all a good night. Have a wonderful holiday, and just remember, it's all up to you.
Awesome. Well said, my friend. Well done. And what a force you are in the world for good. And I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And happy holidays. We'll talk in just a moment, but happy holidays to you and yours, however you celebrate. And as we do, we'll see each other around.
Thanks, Rex.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you. Wow, Paul Nadeau. What a powerful person and a powerful presence and a powerful show and an opportunity for each and all of us to examine and to change. He pointed out something really important. Napoleon Hill always said, about every year you should take a self-inventory just to make sure you're moving and changing the way you think you are and not BSing yourself. So take an inventory every year. The idea that you can be your best you today, and then a week from now, a month from now, 6 years from now, you can be a better you. And if that's what your goal is to always be your best and focus on the present, as Paul has said, then you can make that happen for yourself. And so do that. Vibe high and resonate. And yes, it's all up to you. So with that said, go get Paul's books. It is the holiday time of the year, and get them for yourselves and for friends. I'm going to tell you about my book now because it is the close of the show. And remember, it's called Life on Your Terms. And I don't see the picture. There it is. So Life on Your Terms, create the life you want, and how to stop losing out and start winning. And you can order the book today. And if you go to the website right there, rexsikes.com/book, it will give you instructions, because I have a gift for you. When you order the book, you get the soft cover or the hardcover book, and you follow the instructions. You're going to get this bonus training. It's $497 value. It's an online training, video training on the Mastery Loop, which is about mastering your thoughts, your feelings, your speech, your behaviors, and any abilities that you want, because it's how the brain learns. It's how we learn most and easiest and best as we did when we were children, and how we can put that into practice so that whether we're reading a book or taking up juggling or wanting to change our thoughts, we can learn to do that much, much easier, faster, swifter, and with less struggle and hardship, so that we can delightfully change instead of pulling ourselves up from our own bootstraps. So get the book, and you can get the training, and rexsikes.com/book will give you all the details on how you can do that. So it's been my pleasure, my privilege to be a host for Paul today, and for you to be able to watch the show. Again, please do share it, reach out to others in the world, get Paul's books, make your day extra special, and then make it special for someone else. Remember, if you think of something as a problem, it will always be a problem. But if you think of something as a blessing, it will be a blessing. And that's why I always say, celebrate everything. With that, I'll see you the next